morning, Swans. Today we're going to talk about the American elections. It's our sequel to our previous podcast that was very successful. Today with me is, again, Mr. Robert King.
It's good to see you again, Samuel. And it's good to be able to talk about it after our first very successful podcast that hopefully some students around the school listen to. Right, let's get started.
Let's go. So we probably all know Biden won the elections, right?
Yeah.
By how many did he win?
So, if you remember where we were last time when we did this before, you saw the electoral college system, which is how America chooses who the president would be. And Biden won the electoral college with 306 electoral college votes to Donald Trump's, I think it was 231, something like that. Mm-hmm. But in terms of popular vote, Biden got 5.5 million more votes than Donald Trump. So if you're Donald Trump, who's, as we all probably know, or some people might not know, but is disputing the election, he's wrong on both counts. Number one, Biden won the electoral college. Number two, he won the popular vote as well by a big margin.
In America, there's the two systems, not systems, two
branches of. There's three branches of government.
Okay. So in America, there's three branches of government.
Yeah, there's the Supreme Court, there is Congress, or there's three branches of the political system. Mm-hmm. There's Congress, there's the Supreme Court, and then there's the presidency. So in terms of the Senate, which is all very, very important because it makes it harder for a president to get their laws put into or made. In terms of the Senate, the Republicans, Donald Trump's party, held on to the Senate, although it's very tight and they might lose control of the Senate.
So that's still there on the line.
Yeah. House of Representatives is also very, very tight, but the Democrats hold that and the Democrats hold the presidency. So what's going to have to happen in order for anything to be done in America is that the Democrats and the Republicans will have to work together. Otherwise, they'll just be stalemate.
Okay. And how could the elections be disputed? We were talking about the mail-in ballots and Donald Trump.
Well, what Donald Trump, it's really interesting, and I know people have sort of talked about this, and students are talking about this, but it's very interesting. Because of coronavirus, a lot of the ballots were posted, so a lot of the votes were posted. And in some states, those votes weren't counted until the day of the election. Mm-hmm. In other states, they were counted before the election. What happened was, on the day of the election, to begin with, it felt like Donald Trump had won again, because people who'd voted on the day of the elections, ballots in important states were counted first, and then the mail-in ballots were counted after that. So Donald Trump came out and said to everybody that he'd won, when actually what was happening was we were waiting for the other mail-in ballots, people voting from home, to be counted. And they eventually got tallied up, and they completely and utterly favoured the Democrats and Joe Biden. Trump disputed that, but it was his idea in the first place to not have those ballots counted until the day of the election. So he's not really got a leg to stand on, to be honest. And what he's tried to do is he's tried to dispute them. He's tried to say that there were dodgy things going on in some of these states, and he's taken that to court. And all of the courts, bar none, have rejected what he said.
Why hasn't he left yet? I believe he's still in the White House.
Well, your guess is as good as mine. I think it's partly political and it's partly personal and psychological. I think personally and psychologically, he can't cope with the fact that he's lost. The world has said that he's lost. He cannot cope with that. He's a complicated human being, he's a complicated individual. He's whether you like him or don't like him, cannot say anything other than he's an egomaniac. And to him to feel that he's lost to a 78-year-old man in Joe Biden is impossible for him to fathom. And the other more sort of sophisticated response to your question is that he's trying to ensure that his supporters carry on being his supporters by maintaining this idea that he's been cheated out of the election. He's encouraging his supporters to carry on supporting him, possibly, although he also will be 78 by this point, possibly for another run at the presidency in 2024.
Can he or will he be kicked out if he doesn't leave?
If he doesn't leave office on the 20th of January, yes, he'll be kicked out. He'll be dragged out of the office by the security services.
Okay. So he's got a few months?
I think he's got 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that.
And what happens now? What are we really waiting for?
Well, we're waiting basically for Donald Trump to accept that he's lost the election. I mean, it is very bizarre. Whether you support him or not, it's a bizarre sight to see a man that used to be the president refusing to accept that he's lost. And that's problematic because it means that Joe Biden and his team can't get started on supporting coronavirus, which is now exploded in America. But Donald Trump is ignoring that. So we're just waiting for him to accept that he's lost and to move on.
Can he pass anything? Can he do anything?
He can. The American system enables him to be able to do that. And there's talk yesterday of some of the things that he could do, but he probably won't. We are now running out of time. He needs to be able to, and Joe Biden's team need to be able to work together to try and resolve some of the problems that America's facing with the virus.
What are the major elements of Biden's policy compared to Trump's in things like economics and social?
Well,
policy?
I think one of the major things that Joe Biden wants to do is he wants to bring in a stimulus package, so economic policy and supporting the American economy, and he wants to get agreement with the Republicans. He also wants to rejoin the Paris Climate Treaty, which America have just pulled out of, which is the world treaty that is designed to try and tackle global warming. And he wants to renegotiate the Iran nuclear weapons deal and so on and so on. So effectively, what Joe Biden in theory wants to do is America was starting to retreat as a country from the world, from its responsibility in the world. I think what he wants to do is come back a little bit and start to talk to Europe much more than Donald Trump did, start to engage the Iranians, start to have a proper policy with China and so on.
So he's kind of undoing what Donald Trump did.
Yeah.
Pulling and tugging on the rope. Isn't that just a waste of time?
Possibly, but that's politics. Sadly, that's the way the world is. We are living in a polarized world. I think all the sounds from the Biden campaign are that they're trying to, in their eyes, reach out to Republican voters and people that supported Donald Trump and sort of say, look, we're both on the same side here. We're not enemies. I think that's important. It's important for every country, I think, to be honest, especially during this crisis.
So would you say this is a change for good?
Well, as a teacher, I have to be careful about my own personal opinions. What I would say is that he was a stressful president. I think you can't deny, whether you're a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter, you can't deny that waking up every day and seeing what has this guy said on Twitter, is not anything other than stressful. And I think it's really important for us, we need a bit of peace. The world is a tricky place at the moment. So we could do with our leaders being a little less aggressive. Well, that's certainly my opinion. And I've seen this already since Biden's come to power in America or won the election. The UK has started to respond to that. So Britain has started to respond to that by trying to, in theory, dialing down the language of opposition and the language of polarisation, just trying to re-engage the different sides of different arguments in the UK. Anyway,
that's all we've got time for today. So thank you very much, Mr. Rob, and we'll see you next week.